Warriors Unite! Back with another episode of Bigger Warriors 2 in the 1% Club. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are continuing to follow your mission, conquesting yourselves, conquesting things around you under God's purposes. It's always good to be with you guys. Did not get a chance to kind of go back on shout outs, but I'm going to do that soon. So let's add 30 seconds here. First of all, I want to thank you guys for your comments, feedback, donations, all that great stuff. It's always great to be able to communicate with you guys, and I hope you guys are doing well. So at 30 seconds, let's talk about a topic here. I'm going to combine some topics together. We're going to talk about avoiding the dark energy. This comes from Harold Merewether. Thank you, my friend. And also, can you have withdrawal from SR Abdulzahid? I'll kind of combine both these together a little bit as we talk about this. All right, so let's talk about this. What is some of the negative types of things that you could have when you're on SR and on relation? So let's go take a step back first. Let's kind of talk about this as I turn this the air down a little bit here. Not too much to turn down. I need a little bit of air in here. So as we talk about this, let's kind of go back and look at the original purpose of why we're doing all this. So again, we're trying to build the best males. In this case, 99% of the people that watch the channel are males. We're trying to get the best males possible here, the highest value males that could serve God's purposes. When we talk about being males, and I've had this discussion with several people today even, that we don't have enough males out there who are high-level, strong males. And what we mean by that, and there could be a variety of reasons why, and we'll talk about those in a second. But a high, strong male figure is a person who leads. They can provide, they can protect, but they're in control, and God has given them the ability to control themselves. A male who's in control himself controls things around them pretty easily, because those things around you are not that important. And so you draw all that positive things to you. And as a result of that, you become that leader, that initiator. And women want that. You know, I was talking to my wife about that, several people about that. Women need someone who's going to be a leader. And this is something that you can't always just develop. Sometimes it's trial and error. We'll talk about this in another one later on at some point here. But lack of role models for males is one of the problems that you see here. If you didn't have a dad that was strong, or your dad wasn't around, or did not, wasn't a strong man, then you probably didn't have a good role model. And now you have to kind of work and find that role model, that person you should be. And of course, at that point, then you can kind of help and influence other people and be mentors to a lot of other young men so they become strong in that way. But a lot of males that we're seeing in society, not only because of the socialization of society, but because of all the brainwashing we've had, all the pornography, all the drugs, distractions, all those things that are happening, a lot of males have a lack of self-control. And as a result of that, they're not really people who can be leaders in society. So as we talk about all this, it's important to first start off by saying that the goal is to have as many high-value males out there as we can find. The reason why we're 1% is because we do not have that happening at the moment. So what is the real solution to this? Well, the real solution starts with having self-control. And as Harold's talking about, avoiding dark energy. And as Abdulzahid's talking about, you have to understand you're going to have times where the dark energy is going to come at you. You're going to have an influence on this as you go along. So we're going to kind of approach this topic in two ways. First of all, you have to avoid the temptation. All this energy around you is going to react to you. Now let's take, for example, a person who is on a monk mode, who basically is not, touching their areas at all. They're not acting, they're not looking for pictures, they're not doing those type of things. you're going to get tempted at certain times. That dark energy is not going to allow you to just kind of go scot-free without some sort of battles. You're going to have ups and downs. I'm at 1,800 days or something like that, 1,850 or 60 days, whatever it might be. And I've had lots of ups and downs. And even through the 47 years of actually releasing back and forth, there was a lot of ups and downs. But the dark energy, as Harold talks about, is something to really avoid. But again, before you do that, you have to be committed as a lifetime type of idea to have self-control. And that starts with semen retention. It starts with saving your energy and learning how to transmute it. You cannot do anything if the energy just sits there and is not doing anything. Eventually it's going to come back and hurt you. You've got to go ahead and transmute it. A lot of times I got help from withdrawal. I want to talk about what Abdulzahid asked about, is when I was active, when I continued being active. Part of withdrawal of SR is this idea that you're not thinking about women anymore. You don't realize, I didn't realize, now I'm going to say this from my viewpoint, maybe not the case in your cases, warriors, but from my viewpoint, I didn't realize how much I was thinking about all of that, right? Men tend to think about that, many times a day, especially when you're younger. And once you stop doing that, all of a sudden, all kinds of things you start thinking about. They're a lot different than what you were thinking about before. And so there's times that you can actually go ahead and have a withdrawal from SR because it's all different than what you were thinking about. Your whole life was based on, pictures and based on releasing and all that kind of stuff. And now nothing is like that at all. And now you're trying to find things that occupy your time and do things. And once you start doing this on a continual basis, you're going to find it harder and harder not to go back to what your body's used to. Your muscle memory in your brain basically is saying, okay, I'm not used to this. Whether you're on 20 days or 100 days, or my brain is not used. I'm used to all these years of going back into temptation, visiting the dark energy, bringing the dark energy in, being around dark energy, all those things. And I know Harold talked about it. Maybe he talked about it in more of an ominous way, and we could talk about this at a different one. But I want to kind of even bring this into the discussion because a lot of that energy is there to suck you in. Whether it's a beautiful woman out there, whether it's drugs, alcohol, drinking, all these things suck you in to have that short-term pleasure. But the pleasure really is not a short-term pleasure. The pleasure is more like being in a cage. It's like trapping you. The addictions then come stronger and stronger. And many people believe, when they're younger, I'm not going to get addicted to anything. Well, what happens is you do end up getting addicted. It becomes a habit. And we talk about it takes 21 days to form a habit. So the habit is something that occurs to us all the time, whether it's a good habit or a bad habit. We're habitual by nature. That's kind of where we focus on as human beings. And so we're talking about focusing away from this negative energy, right? Focusing away from all of that. You're going to have times in this journey that you're going to feel a little down, depressed, maybe even depressed, because you're not thinking about those things you were thinking about before. And you're going to think to yourself, oh man, something's missing out of my life here, because you're so wrapped up into that energy and using it for women or other temptations, and now all that is gone. Well, the good part of all this is that it's an easy solution. And that's the case of being able to go ahead and focus your goals. Get goals out there, do things. Because even though at times you're going to feel that way, you're going to plateau at certain times, through this whole process. But that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It doesn't mean you should go back to the way you were. You just have to kind of be patient with the process. Be patient with the process. Keep working to getting the long goal. And the reason why you're flatlined and the reason why you feel withdrawn in my opinion at least, is that the evil one is testing you. The evil one is testing you, saying, are you a contender or are you a pretender? Are you somebody who's just talking a good game, but as soon as I throw a naked woman up there, a picture of somebody or a real person, you're going to kind of fall for that and go back into the same old trap, and now you're back in there. I could tell you that I was a pretender for 47 years. Hopefully, I'm kind of moved past that pretender a little bit, and I'm moving back in. I'm more into a contender now because I understand the mistakes I was making all that time. And the bottom line is you cannot fall back into that temptation. And as Harold's talking about, you have to learn how to avoid that dark energy. Because as you start this process, you're going to have great success right away. Or you're going to have mediocre success right away. A lot of that depends on how long you were in a habit. It took me a long time. You know, I'm 64. I mean, you're talking about, 5 years ago. So I was 59, something like that, when I basically decided to go monk mode and just decided to risk everything. And back then, you're talking about doctors and people telling you should release or you're going to have all these kind of problems and things like that. And I was kind of scared of all that kind of stuff. So basically, I decided, okay, the heck with it. Even if I can't do worse than I'm doing now because of the way I felt like I'm going to go do this, and whatever it happens, happens. To my tremendous surprise and to my great faith now that I have now, that it's been tremendous, unbelievable. Was there lots of times where I felt like going back? Yes. Sure. You always feel like that, especially at the beginning of the process. Not so much anymore after 5 years, but at the beginning, yes. You feel like, your body is missing something. Your body reacts like that. And all it's to say, oh man, all the stuff that I was doing, I feel like going back to because I'm comfortable with that. And so as Harold's talking about, you're comfortable with that dark energy. You're comfortable being around those negative people. And I was around those negative people a long time ago. And I know. And so that negative energy, those addictions, all that stuff to control you is what the devil wants. I remember one kind of story that was about the devil, and I keep I keep getting this wrong, but it's kind of, I get the idea right, but I can't tell you verse by verse what happened here. But the devil was sitting there, and there's a bunch of cards out there, and I don't know who it was. Someone asked the devil and said, "Okay, maybe it was Jesus." Said, "Pick out a card that basically," I don't think this is from the Bible. I think it's just kind of some kind of story or something. And asked the devil, "What's the best card you're going to pick?" And he says, hopelessness, right? And he had all these kind of, epidemics. He had all this disasters, flooding, all kinds of stuff, depression. He could have picked all these. But he picked hopelessness. Because once you find yourself being hopeless, then the devil says, Satan says, I can take any other one and destroy you. Because the bottom line for the devil is he just doesn't want you to go to God. He doesn't want you to go to your Creator. And so the whole life we live is determined on whether we go to Christ, in my case, or in your case, your Creator, or go to the devil, an evil one. And so everything you're doing is part of that life's purpose. Emerson said that a long time ago, and I agree with him 100%. The whole course of life is to teach us faith. At the end of our life, we should have faith in a God or a Creator, whoever as you term it. But the idea is that you should not be going to the other side to the devil. And this is what happens with a lot of young people. They all of a sudden start going into a lot of behaviors that are and I'm not saying just young people, everybody. And all of a sudden now, they're all of a sudden doing all these temptations, all these things that are going to hurt them in the long run because you're getting closer to the devil. Every time you release, you get closer to the devil. Every time you lose your focus, your mind, whether it's alcohol, drugs, you're now in the devil's ballpark. You're now bringing on that dark energy. And dark energy, obviously, energy is all around us, positive or negative. Could be good, could be bad. But all of a sudden, when you start doing these things, and it is no wonder that you see things like alcohol and drugs and sex, all this stuff together. Because the bottom line is all these things are gateways for Satan to come in and steer you away. And the more you do this, the more you become a habit of going ahead and focusing on him and all these pleasurable things you want, instead of really focusing on God, your creator. And so that's why we talk about that. You're going to have times in this journey that you're going to have a withdrawal, right? You're going to miss the old dark energy, and as a result of that, you're going to act like, okay, what am I doing all this for? I'm not happy. I'm kind of just there, blah, right? I'm feeling blah. I mean, maybe depressed a little bit. But that's because you're being tested. You're being tested on whether you're a pretender or a contender when it comes to the whole journey of SR. And so as a result of this, we've got to really kind of say to ourselves, we are contenders. This is a lifetime type of issue. You're doing your whole life on this. And if you do that, you know there's going to be ups and downs during this journey. Just like in life, there's times there are going to be ups and downs. There's times that I've had everything hit me at one time because I feel like this retention stuff is basically the right way to go. But the evil one is testing you because he knows that in the past, I would go for situations in which I was stressed out. Things didn't work out well and things were going bad. And so then I would go ahead and release because I want to reduce stress. Or at least I thought I wanted to reduce stress. I was dead wrong, and because it created more stress, but I didn't realize it at the time, like all the stuff I realize now. So as a result of this, I basically learned the hard way that you stay on your path. You stay on the path of retention. Don't leave this retention. Because what happens then is that you fall right back into the same pattern of the other 99% of people out there, especially men. And what you really want to do is kind of say, okay, how am I going to be out different? Because guys, realize this or not, your energy is a superpower. If you are retaining and you're transmuting and you're able to get that aura and that energy you need, you're going to have all kinds of people coming after you. You're going to have those people who like you. You're going to have those attractive people who are going to be throwing themselves at you. And I've seen it. So you may think it's kind of, for those who are not total believers, you may think it's kind of crazy, but it does happen. Because they sense and they want to be around a person's energy. I've seen so many different reactions, even this week, even in the last couple days, right? You're going to also get people, and I've seen this the last couple days, people who are not happy with you, angry. You're going to get the dark energy because you got to be careful of what you're attracting. You're going to attract good. You're going to attract bad. This is why you always have to be kind of on top of your game, because even though now you're attracting all these women maybe that you wanted in the past, it's not anything to do with those women because you don't want to release. You don't want to get involved with something where you're going to go ahead and release energy and all of a sudden go back to square one and start your journey again. And you're really not doing square one. Even if you're releasing, you're still learning how to build your life through retention, through self-control. And that's a good thing. So even though you may release, it's not the end of the world. But again, you don't want to put yourself in position. As Harold says, you got to avoid all this dark energy. Avoid all these temptations. And even though those times where you go ahead and say, okay, I'm withdrawing here. I don't feel as good. All these bad things are happening. Let me go ahead and go back to my dark energy. You don't want to do that. So you got to avoid the dark energy by staying on your plan, your purpose, and going ahead and kind of pushing yourself past all of those temptations, all that dark energy. Is it easy? Of course not. That's why we're 1%. But it's what warriors have to do, which separates you from 99% of these men out there right now who, with the first notice they have a problem, stress, or some kind of worry about validation, attention, and they're falling back into that dark energy again. They're going back into those temptations that have started the whole problem they had in the first place. And they don't know how to stop that The key to the whole thing is start with that retention. That's your energy God has given you. That's how it starts. And then after that, go and tackle each one of those addictions and start doing that, because you'll have more power with you now that the Lord is giving you that energy. You're transmuting it and not throwing it away. All right, so thank you guys. Abdulzahid, thank you, my friend. Harold, Merewether, thank you. I tried to combine a couple of these together today to make it easier to kind of understand that you're going to have downsides of SR. You're not going to be feeling 100% great all the time. However, you know where that's coming from. That's coming from Satan. The evil one's coming to test you. They want you to go back to the way it is because they want you to stay in the Satan's realm, the evil one's realm, not God's realm. The more you do retention, the more you're moving towards God. The less you do retention, the more you're moving to Satan. Satan wants you there. He obviously doesn't want you with God. God wants you with God. So therefore, this is a continual battle between good and evil every time. And so the more you're able to stay with God, the better off you're going to be. But that means you have to avoid that dark energy, temptation. Avoid those situations every time you get a chance to, and especially when you're feeling down in the process. You're going to feel down because it's testing. Your body's changing, your mind's changing, your spirit's changing, and you're recognizing the importance of holding things in and self-control. But it's not going to come easy. Beware of the evil one as you go through this process. All right, guys, enough of this for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Next time I'll try to talk about, we'll talk about, is there an afterlife? I like this question, and we'll talk about this next time. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Again, I'm going to look for doing more things this fall, maybe trying to do a course, and we'll do another one of those live streams and do a little different type of takes on some of the stuff. If you guys have questions, I'm going to catch up with a lot of the shout outs. I had some good comments today, and I'll focus on those as well. All right, guys, as I always do, I'll leave you with two great things. One, every day is a new day to a great warrior, and you guys are great warriors each time. And secondly, you always have to continue to fight that devil, because again, even when you're not feeling the best in the world every day and things are happening to you, they're not good, those are always tests. This too shall pass. God will continue being with you, but you got to remember it's always a battle between good and evil. And that's why we always talk about the fact that you got to put your helmet on, put your shield on, put your breastplate on, have your sword ready to go, and you got to always continue to battle on! God bless you guys. Have a great evening.